We don't do death very well in this country. We're all very stiff upper lip, don't talk about it. Hello, we're Kate and Kate, founders of Coffin Club UK. We're absolutely obsessed about changing the face of funerals and want to let everybody who's going to die know about all the choices that they have around their end of life celebration.
We started out on this journey as marriage registrars. We met through the East Sussex Registration Service. We then left to become independent celebrants, and quite soon we realised that weddings are very seasonal. They happen for a short time and for a short part of the year. So the obvious thing to do was train to be funeral celebrants.
So we had to think long and hard about conducting funerals because there is a huge weight of responsibility. So we went off and did some funeral training and we took from it what we could. And then what happened, Kate?
Well, we were told on our training that the way to get work as funeral celebrants was to go via the funeral directors. So we did that initially, and we started conducting funerals, which were very much how you would think of funerals if you were to stop the average person on the street. Half an hour at the crematorium to quite a set format. And after not very long, we kind of turned to each other and said, is this the sort of funeral you would want for you? Is this the sort of funeral you would want for somebody you love? And the answer we came back with was no.
Oh, absolutely. So because we're wedding celebrants, we had gone to some beautiful venues. So we actually spoke to the venues and said to them, would you think to hold a funeral here in your beautiful venue? And after them thinking about it and thinking, oh, could we, should we? Without fail, 100% of the venue said, yes, absolutely, we would hold a funeral service at our venue. I mean, they've got beautiful grounds, they've got big doors that you can get the coffin into, and then you can go and do the wake straight after the service. So why wouldn't they have that facility?
So then, because we talked to all these fabulous venues, we were really super excited, and we went skipping off to various funeral directors and said, we found these fabulous venues, they're all really happy to host funerals. Is that something that you would offer to families? And again, the answer came back, no. And when we said, why not? They said, because no one has ever asked for it.
Which made us very cross, because the reason nobody has asked for it is because perhaps they don't know that they have all these choices and that you can actually hold a celebration of life or a funeral service wherever you like. So it could be at the crematorium, it could be at a church, but it could also be at a village hall, or a barn, or a hotel, or even your back garden. The choices are endless. But the trouble is, if you don't know that you have all these choices, then you're not going to ask them, and you are going to be channeled to going to the crematorium or to a church.
What were we to do? We decided that if funeral directors weren't going to tell families that they had these choices, it was clearly down to us. And that's how Coffin Club was born. Coffin Club was born out of frustration. We wanted local people to know that all these choices existed for them. So we set up Coffin Club in Hastings and told people that the choices they had for funerals were absolutely endless. So people often ask us what Coffin Club is. Coffin Club is a safe place where people can come and talk about dying and death, and also plan their perfect send-off. So they get a funeral wish list that they work their way through. There are industry experts who come along and talk, funeral directors, end-of-life doulas, the manager of our local crematorium and cemetery, for example. And our clubbers work through a wish list and plan and cost their perfect send-off. And they do that before they're at a point of bereavement, because at a point of bereavement, very difficult to think creatively and ask difficult questions. And so the likelihood is that you will very easily be channeled into doing things the way they've always been done.
People come to Coffin Club for all different reasons, but it's basically to educate themselves about all the choices that they have around their end of life celebration, so they can cost, plan, write down their wishes for their family, so that once they die, that it's all written down and the family doesn't need to worry.
We thought people would initially be all very elderly, perhaps about to, be thinking about that last part of their life. We do get a majority of elderly people, don't we? But we do get some young people. We quite often get kind of middle age where they've just had a funeral for their mum or their dad, and they found it somewhat lacking, and they don't want to put their kids through that experience, so they decide to come and sort out their own funeral plans. We also usually get one person who probably is terminally ill, so they really are, facing the final thing.
We don't do death very well in this country. We're all very stiff upper lip, don't talk about it. Well, let me tell you, we are all going to die. So we need to plan, cost and educate ourselves on all of the different choices that we have round our celebration of life and funerals. And that's what's so great about Coffin Club, is that it gives people a safe space, they relax, they can normalise the talking of death and dying. It's normal, we can talk about it. And whilst they're doing that, they can then write down exactly what they want for their end of life celebration, so that it's there down in writing for their families, and then they can get on with living.
We've got a classic example of that, haven't we? Sheila, who she had her 75th birthday, and she basically said she went into a complete tailspin. She started panicking, thinking, oh, I'm going to die because I'm 75 and I haven't got anything in place and I haven't talked to my kids about it. So she came to Coffin Club, she decorated her coffin, she talked to her grown-up children. In fact, her son came and helped her, didn't he? And she basically said, because it was all sorted, she didn't need to think about it anymore. She was going to get on with living, and she didn't even think about dying anymore, did she? She just laid it to rest.
It opens up conversations, so that your nan could then go to the grandchildren and say, oh, guess what I did this week? I went to Coffin Club. And then it opens up discussion. It normalises it, so that you can have these difficult conversations with a bit of humour. So it actually it ripples out, doesn't it? And everybody
really
starts
does.
talking about it. What we were so surprised at with running our Coffin Club in Hastings is just how much information people don't know. They don't think about dying and death. They think if they think about it, then they're going to die. It's really strange. People actually think that it's the law to use a funeral director. I mean, they know nothing. So once they come to a Coffin Club, within the first 5 minutes, their mind is blown when they found out all this information, and you watch them go through their journey, planning and costing their perfect send-off, and perhaps it was something completely different from what they first wanted, or perhaps it is the 20 minutes up the crematorium, which is fine, as long as they know all the other options that are available to them, and they still want the 20 minutes up the crematorium, then that's our job is done.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is all about choice. It's about making an informed decision rather than just being channeled into doing something because you don't know all the options available to you. The point of Coffin Club, what actually underpins it, is it's about empowering people. It's about giving them ownership of their end of life celebration. I don't think we can stress enough how important we think that is, just in general, but also as part of the grieving process. When you're bereaved, it's really difficult to think creatively or ask difficult questions. And so Coffin Club gets you, hopefully, ahead of that time at a point where you are able to do that. And it's just really empowering and absolutely marvellous.
Coffin Club started with Coffin Club Hastings, and since then we've got 10 Coffin Clubs all over the country.
Coffin Club is actually a social franchise with lots of clubs now around the country. People come along and they do our masterclass training and they learn how to set up and run a coffin club in their area. We're absolutely thrilled, aren't we, with all our affiliate clubs around the country. We're so proud of them and we're so proud to have them as part of the Coffin Club family. And the more coffin clubs there are, the more people we reach and the more people know about all the choices available to them.
Viva la funeral revolution.
So along with running Coffin Club UK, we also continue to work as funeral celebrants, and we actually really feel that funeral celebrants can be absolutely central in the movement to changing the face of funerals in the UK.
We try and work in a broader, more creative way and like to have our funerals at different venues: barns, village halls, back gardens.
Seedy bars, windy fields, posh hotels, and still quite often at the crematorium.
And we're not anti-funeral director, we're not anti-faith, we're not anti-crematorium. We just want what is best and right for each one of you, whatever that may be.
When we first trained as funeral celebrants, we were told that the way to get our work was through funeral directors, which we did do for a while. But now we basically market ourselves directly to families, and we like to work directly with families and offer them all the choices that we know are available to them, including recommending a funeral director if that's the route they want to go.
So the way we now work is authentic and creative and reflects our true values.
We've worked really hard to become the go-to death experts at the heart of our community. We really love getting out there and telling people what we do, because ultimately what we want to do is offer them the support they need at what might be the hardest time in their life. We want to support as many people as possible to have the kind of funeral that is right for them.
So when a family comes directly to us, we often recommend a funeral director. And what's great about that is that we are working with the funeral director, not for the funeral director, which puts you in a much different position and makes you feel much better and confident about your practice.
We absolutely set our own fees. If you go and look on the Kate and Kate Celebrants website, you will see them clearly listed there. We see the contract of work as being between us and the family, not between us and the funeral director. It's a subtle difference, but it is a big difference, and it makes a difference to the way that we work.
And the way we feel. Working this way gives you the freedom to think creatively. It gives you time. If it's at a different venue, there isn't a time restriction. It gives you empowerment and the family empowerment too.
You can have additional content, can't you? A sing-along, rituals, whatever you like. I mean, I have to say, it took a leap of faith, didn't it, to change the way that we worked. But once we did it, we honestly never looked back. And we feel absolutely passionate that this is the best way for us to work as celebrants. It raises up the whole profession, and it just is so brilliant and gives families just another layer of support.
There are many brilliant funeral directors out there, but some of them are not going to change. So it's up to us as celebrants to raise that game, to raise our game, and to best serve all of our community. So we started the Celebrant Plus course because we could see and feel the frustration of other celebrants. You could read it on the celebrant forums that they wanted to know how to be the go-to funeral celebrant, and we knew that for some people that was not going to happen.
Or maybe they were the go-to celebrant and then for no discernible reason they stopped being. And maybe a funeral director left or changed how they worked, and that person was dropped. And what we found was really heartbreaking was that celebrants were almost asking what they'd done wrong. And that's just not right, is it? They haven't done anything wrong.
It really isn't. I mean, we did try to actually follow the funeral director as gatekeeper model. I mean, I even dyed my hair brown and dressed in very conservative clothes because I thought that's what would actually get us more work.
Yes, didn't work though, did it?
Didn't work, just made me miserable.
It made her miserable, and I nearly self-combusted trying to kowtow to funeral directors, which went right against my nature. So we were both like round pegs trying to fit into square holes. What we found with some of the funeral directors that we worked with was that they just weren't open to offering families choices. It really was church or crematorium, and that was it. And we really wanted to open up the world of other venues and other ways of doing things.
We want families to feel empowered. We want them to be able to take control of their loved one's final send-off. And we also want to give celebrants a new way of working that makes them feel proud of how they work.
Absolutely. So we know through our own lived experience how liberating it is to work in this way. We really want to stop the race to the bottom, and we are absolutely passionate about passing on all this knowledge to other celebrants, because there is another way of working and it is just amazing.
We know that it's scary walking to the beat of your own drum. We know it's hard to put your head above the parapet, but you are not alone. There are so many other like-minded celebrants just like yourselves, and there is so much support out there should you need it.
Being a Celebrant Plus celebrant really is more than a job. It's about being part of a movement for change, and that can only be a good thing because we are supporting families, and at the end of the day, that's why we all do this job. Through the Coffin Club Celebrant Plus training, we really can change the face of funerals forever.